Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're into week 4 of Targetmaster Hero Month, and this time around we're taking a look at the Autobot Warrior, Cop. Now this version of Cop was released like the others in 1987. He would only be available in 1987. He would be discontinued in 1988, and we would technically not get a replacement for him. Of course, like all the other Targetmaster heroes this month, the Targetmaster version of Cup is basically very similar, but not quite exactly the same toy as the 1986 original Cup. But again, like with many of them, the differences, the differences are mainly cosmetic. As we'll show off a couple of them here. We'll show off one here immediately. First, make it easy. Remove the Targetmaster gun. We'll bring their hands up a little closer to the screen, and you can see the one on the left is the original. The one on the right is the Targetmaster. You can see that the holes that are for the posts for the guns, the Targetmaster version, like all the others, the hole is significantly bigger. And it does look like in this case the fists, may just be the angle that my eyes are looking at this, but it does look like that the fist on the Targetmaster is also just slightly bigger. I know that isn't the case on a lot of the other toys that have been redone like this, but that's definitely something to notice on this version. Put the gun back in his hand here, and we'll continue the review. Get the old one out of the way. Taking a look at Cup, the articulation on him is pretty impressive for an Autobot car of his time, although it's still a little substandard, as you can't do anything with his head. Oh, you can rock the head back and forth. That's about all you can do with it. The legs are totally stiff and solid, so you can't do anything with them, but he does have a fair amount in his arms. You can rotate the arm at the shoulder all the way, and the arm can extend outward like so. He does have a joint at the elbow, so it does allow him to bend his arm at the elbow either direction. And he does, surprisingly as well, have a joint at the wrist, so you can rotate his fist all the way around. So you do have a wide variety of arm poses you can put him in. Just a shame that there really isn't much else you can do with him. Alright, let's transform Cup. First of all, we got to, of course, remove the gun. The next, to get Cup ready, we take this section here behind his head, raise it up, connect it onto the chest. We'll fold out the truck bed a little bit there. And next we're going to separate the body and rotate it backward. But part of the way through there, we're also going to pull the legs out at the hip and then fully get the body brought down. And of course, set the truck bed in securely. Turn him around here to the feet. Gently going to push the feet in, which will also bring the back tires out. And now up here for the arms, I'm going to rotate them so that the tires go outside. Bring the arm up, bend it at the elbow, and rotate it so it goes back in under the truck cab. And then there we have it. Cup's somewhat controversial alternate mode. A Cybertronian pickup truck. It does roll pretty good here on this table. In fact, only the slight change makes it different from the 1986 original, and that's back here in the truck bed, in the bed of the truck. 1986 original just has this red and black sticker in the back. And of course, the complaint that most fans have, there's no tailgate, so how can he carry cargo? On the Targetmaster remake, the sticker is instead replaced with this hole, which just so happens to fit his gun. And so this time around, Cup's got a tail gun. Which does rotate a fair amount. It doesn't do a full 360 for the obvious reason, but it does provide some adequate coverage and does make Cup an excellent person to take up the rear during a retreat, as he's basically one of the few that can exclusively cover the rear. Of course, many of you out there, if you played the old Car Wars game, this would probably be an ideal vehicle to use in some cases, as you've got pretty decent rear defense. But then again, many of us on the road probably wish we have something like this. The sight of this sticking out the back of the tailgate would certainly discourage tailgaters. Sorry for the sudden stop there, friends. Had to go down and get some fresh batteries. Something else we should point out to everybody before we move on is notice some of the things about the toy. Here on the 1986 original, this front portion right here on the truck where the windshield is and whatnot, this is die-cast metal right here. And these front wheels, these are rubber wheels. The back ones are plastic. Now, well, here on the 1987 Targetmaster, this part up here, this is still metal. That's one of the few nice things about it. This is still metal. But the tires are definitely plastic all around. So, just something to point out to everybody that, yep, they still retain the metal in 1987, but they did phase out the rubber wheels. Let us take a quick look here at Cup's lone accessory. This is Recoil. Whoops. This is Recoil, his Targetmaster partner. Slippery little devil, isn't he? Recoil only has articulation at the hip, so he can be bent like that, so he can bend down like that. Kind of like you see in the martial arts movies. That's all. Jink. Transform him in. Bring him back up. Try again. Transform him into Cup's weapon. We take this section on the back, fold it down at his feet, and bend him at the hip all the way. And he becomes a musket laser, which ironically is still the same type of gun that Cup used in his original toy, but this time around it's a double-barreled musket laser. So, probably a bit of an improvement. At least interesting that there was that significant of a change. There's not really many of them got anything that was really that different from their original weapon, or if nothing else, it might have been a different weapon altogether, but Cup's is definitely the same, but this time he has a double-barreled cannon instead of a single-barreled. So, rather interesting. Now it's time to take a look at the instructions, and this time around the comparisons are going to be a little strange due to the fact that for the Targetmaster version, I have the Canadian instructions, so they're in English and French, whereas the original Cup, I just have the American instructions, but there's still enough here that we can go over and discuss some of the differences. Namely, chief among them, like we've stated on the others so far this month, the tagline here is changed on between the original and the Targetmaster. The original just says more than meets the eye, whereas the 87 Targetmaster is more much more than meets the eye. And of course, you can see the picture is slightly different. I mean, the most obvious change is the colors, as you can see. They put a little more red here on the Targetmaster version, whereas the original just had a fair amount of gray on him. The gun is obviously different, be upgraded for the new one. And we take a real close look here, and you can see the facial expression is significantly different between the two. That's quite weird. And of course, down here, the text for Heroic Autobot, as you can see, is in a different size, but that partially could be due to the fact that this one's the Canadian instructions. But you've seen enough to really be able to tell what you're getting into, folks, if you want to hunt down the instructions specific for this toy. Right here it shows how to transform recoil into the gun. And of course how to mount the gun in the truck bed. Then we get into how to transform Cup. Which is exactly the same way as you would for the original toy. And of course how to put the stickers on. Same thing on the last page. Find the rub sign, save your robot points, and of course read your tech specs. And I just tossed the instructions all the way off onto the floor. Real nice job today. Alright, let's take a look at his tech spec. Here's the new one, and then right beneath it we have the original. Get my thumb out of the way. As you can see, the new Targetmaster version is a little bit closer to him than what the original one was, and it's done in a darker shade of colors, besides the obvious change to the sunburst pattern in the background. You can tell the gun is different, but it's a little harder to tell on the Targetmaster version because it's mostly off picture. But you can also see here that the font size and there's bold for his function listing on the Targetmaster version than what it was on the original. Alright, it's done up in red to signify he's an Autobot, even says Autobot above the picture. It gives his name as Cup, it lists his function as Warrior, and his motto is, "The past is the greatest teacher." A grizzled veteran with 10,000 tall tales from his 1,000 adventures. Has advice for his pals in any situation, whether they want to hear it or not. That's probably a reference to the Transformers movie, as Hot Rod was not really very receptive to hearing any of Cup's stories throughout the adventure. Recoil, his Nebulon partner, is an old-style musket laser and former all-world Prisma Ball, most popular sport on Nebulon, player. In vehicle mode, maximum speed 100 miles per hour, range 800 miles. Now, none of the lore really goes into what Prisma Ball is, but the More Than Meets the Eye guides state that Recoil is a retired Prisma Ball player, and thus decided to join up in the battle due to feeling that old age has not slowed him down. So it makes him kind of a good partner with Cup, as Cup is known to be one of the older Autobots. At any rate, let's put the decoder here over the grid and let's see what it says about his stats. It lists his strength as 8, his intelligence is 5, his speed is 2, his endurance is 9, his rank is 5, his courage is 10, his firepower is coming in right about at a 5, and his skill is 8. I'm kind of wondering, how does some of that compare to the original? Strength went down just a little. His intelligence dropped by 2 points. So is that saying that Cup's gotten dumber because of having a Targetmaster, or is senility starting to set in? His speed has gradually decreased, and again, that's strange because even the original one lists that his speed was 100 miles per hour maximum, so that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Endurance stayed about the same, so that's always good. His rank went down significantly. His rank here was listed as an 8, and then it went down to a 5, so in the transition, Cups had a severe demotion. His courage has went up. Firepower is about the same or went down, and his skill is about the same. So there's a lot of misnomers here going on between these two versions of Cup that really don't make sense. So now we get down to my final thoughts. What do I think of the Targetmaster version of Cup? I truly believe the Targetmaster version of Cup is a significant improvement over the original. I mean, the double-barreled gun, that's kind of neat, kind of nifty. Of course, I'm a veteran of the Star Wars Minis game, and late in the game that we gained an ability called Twin Attack, which was basically like having a double-barreled gun that we could use to try to hit the same target twice. So something like this kind of appeals to me in that sense. And of course, if it's like a hunting shotgun or whatever, he might be able to have the option of deciding if he wants to hit the same target with both barrels or switch between targets. They really don't go into any detail as to whether or not, which way his gun works. But that's still open for your own imaginations. The improvement to the truck bed where the gun can be mounted as a turret, that's a significant improvement on the original Cup. As many fans have long pointed out, without a truck bed, without the tailgate back there, the truck bed's more or less useless. Unless we can come up with a science fiction reason that keeps his cargo from flying out the back. But also, the toy's just still a pretty good representation of Cup. I do like the fact they kept the metal here on his chest. The replacement of the rubber tires on the front, that's okay. I mean, that was bound to happen sooner or later, as Hasbro was phasing out the parts, but it is nice to see that they did keep the metal there on the chest, so the toy does have some weight to it. My only real gripes with this new version of Cup is on the tech spec. Some of those changes just don't seem to add up, especially when you're talking significant decreases, and if his speed in terms of maximum speed stayed the same, why did his speed rate drop? And what sort of thing did Cup do to have his rank demoted so severely? I don't get it, folks, but all around, I would say this toy is probably a middle tier toy. It's not quite there to be at the top tier, but it is fairly close. I mean, it could go either way, but I'll err on the side of caution and go with the middle tier due to the fact that I'm really not thrilled with the changes that they made to him on the tech specs there. They may be trying to state that old age is catching up with Cup, but if it's that bad, then it's probably time to retire him out if he's becoming that slow and sluggish. And if he's insulted Optimus or Rodimus to the point that they've demoted him that badly, maybe it's time they find a better spot to put Cup than on the front lines. And that concludes my review of the Targetmaster version of Cop. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Don't forget as well, hit that subscribe button down below and join up within our ranks. Please also consider sharing your thoughts about Targetmaster Cop or even the original Cop in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying next week we conclude Targetmaster Hero Month with the rarest of them all. So I'll see you then and catch you all later.